At Notre Dame, there are many impressive monuments to glory, and several humble ones as well. At the campus fire hall in a second-story dormitory room, the course of Notre Dame football was plotted from 1941 to 1953. Here, a brilliant coach worked through the night instead of going home, staying close to the game and school that consumed his life. The coach's name was Frank Leahy.
Frank Leahy is the kind of coach that you begin to respect more after you've left. But while you were participating in all of those daily football sessions while you were there, you sometimes had the feeling that this guy was the toughest taskmaster in the world.
But Frank Leahy was the epitome, I thought, of what a coach should be. He's a guy that stressed determination, dedication, self-sacrifice. He's the guy that said that anything worthwhile you had to pay the price for.
I loved Frank Leahy, I really did. He would get more out of people. He engendered great respect, and I think this is back to where he wanted the same thing that Rockne engendered, great respect. And I think the whole pattern was a Rockne-type philosophy.
Rockne's philosophy dominated Leahy's life from the moment he arrived at Notre Dame in 1927 from Winner, South Dakota. Like any tough young Irish Catholic of the era, Leahy's dream was to play for the Rock.
Oh, too high, Metzger, too high. And you didn't get that man out there, Leahy. Get your head on the inside of him, Frank. Carry him out. And use the holding block in the center. You plug the gap there, Tom. And Cochran, you trail the center from behind here. You target along the line of scrimmage here, Leahy, so he can't come through and then go through for the secondary. You go right through for the secondary right away.
Rockne taught Leahy the system and created a coach in his own image, preparing Leahy to claim his birthright.
Notre Dame students welcome new football coach Frank Leahy. Leahy, former Boston College coach, opens his first spring drill as ball.
Leahy swept out the old Notre Dame box in favor of a new formation which would feature an unknown reserve, Angelo Bertelli.
I was running about sixth string, and frankly, he decided that he needed someone to throw the forward pass, and overnight, I became a first stringer. I think, frankly, he was happy to see me, and I certainly was happy to see him, because it was the beginning of a modified T formation. It was time for a change at Notre Dame, away from the Notre Dame box and into the T formation.
With the T, Leahy lost only 3 games in 3 years, and Bertelli won the Heisman Trophy. It took a war to stop them.
Sign of the times, Notre Dame players join the Marine Corps Reserve. Sports are important on the morale front, but the boys are also witching to throw the axis for a loss.
Bertelli was drafted right off the practice field, and Leahy followed close behind. The coach was commissioned a captain in the Navy, but some say he spent most of the next 2 years talking to servicemen with football eligibility remaining. In 1944 and 45, Army beat the service-depleted Irish by a combined score of 107-0, the 2 worst defeats in Notre Dame history. In 1946, it was time for revenge.
Yankee Stadium and Army versus Notre Dame. Tickets sold out. For this is the greatest natural in football's 77-year history. The Irish are snarling for revenge. Notre Dame football prestige is at stake. The ghost of Newt Rockne walks today.
The men of Notre Dame had returned to stop Army in its tracks. But Johnny Lou Jack found the same rough going as the teams battled to a 0-0 stalemate. Only once was that stalemate threatened.
Doc Blanchard, closely covered all day, finally shakes loose around end. He's clear except for one man, Lou Jack, who doesn't miss. That's that. The battle of the century is over. The most colossal 0-0 football game in history.
By the time the war ended, Leahy was leading an awesome array of talent onto a different field of battle. His commander was the incomparable Johnny Lujack, a quarterback who fit Leahy's plan to a T. Lujack won the Heisman in 1947, and 2 years later, it was Leon Hart's turn. Rugged number 82 led the way, and in 4 straight seasons, Leahy's post-war legions did not lose a game.
Of those 4 years, we were national champions 3. That meant that a whole class of Notre Dame students went through without seeing their football team lose a game. Sometimes it gets to an attitude as you get towards the 3rd and 4th years, not whether we're going to win the ball game, but how bad should we beat these fellows today.
Notre Dame ruled the 40s, and Frank Leahy was the master. His one influence was unmistakable. He even sounded like Newt Rockne.
So Frank had a way of saying to us before a game that he says, I'd rather have my left arm cut off up to here than to lose to this team that we were playing today. Then the next game, the right arm left him, and pretty soon his left leg and his right leg. Now, this is about the 8th or 9th game of the season, so he decided to take the whole team out to the Notre Dame cemetery. So we were going to say a prayer over Rockne's grave. We went over to see who else was around there, and there happened to be the basketball coach who had just died about 3 or 4 months prior to that. And with that, Leahy got up from his solemnity of praying, and he happened to notice us over there, and he says, "Ah, lads, come away from there. Visit that man during the basketball season." And that's the kind of a guy, and he meant it.
No, we accepted his manner of speech. In fact, we got a kick out of it, and I think any player that played at that time under Leahy could imitate the coach, and they could talk like Coach Leahy.
Oh, Leon, how are you, my lad?
Oh, Angelo, how are you? How's your mother and father? How's your girlfriend?
Oh, lads, let's run that again.
Oh, John Latner. John Latner, you should be in the Navy. You're a cruiser.
When John Latner cruised onto campus in 1950, his impressive physical skills were matched by his unpredictability. Latner's style was thrill a minute, but Leahy was not impressed.
I fumbled 5 times in one game. That's the only record I got left. And Leahy, being a perfectionist that he was, couldn't understand it. He couldn't understand why a back of my caliber could make those many mistakes. He says, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to have you go over to one of the chapels here at the University of Notre Dame. And as you get into the chapel, John, would you please go to confession and confess those 5 mortal sins you committed last Saturday?
Leahy persuaded Latner to hold on to the ball more tightly, and number 14 became the Masters' 4th Heisman Award winner. While Leahy's teams in the 50s were good, they were no longer invincible. An average of 2 losses per season were more than this perfectionist could bear. In 1953, Leahy collapsed at the Georgia Tech game and received the last rites. He recovered, but refused to change.
We tried to get him to take a vacation to get away from coaching. He wouldn't do that because he wanted to be the coach. He wanted to be another Rockne at Notre Dame. So his only thing he had in life was football, football, football. And that really hurt him, mentally and physically. And he was cracking up, there was no question about that.
At the age of 47, Frank Leahy resigned the only job he ever wanted. He was 6 times unbeaten, 4 times national champion. Although he lived 20 more years, Leahy never again coached the game he loved.
The final whistle is just about to blow, indicating the end of this week's visit. But before we separate, I'd like to leave you with this thought. Egotism is an anesthetic which deadens the pain of stupidity.